This was an issue that occurred at Katsucon 2013. Two entirely different conventions were taking place at the exact same time in the exact same place. An anime convention, Katsucon, and a Jewish youth convention known as BBYO. Once both sides were aware of each other, the whole experience of being at the con left a bad taste in my mouth. Now, for starters, I was not involved in any major incident other than being told I could not use a particular pair of elevators because it was on the BBYO side of the hotel. And disclaimer, part of what I'm saying is a mix of my own personal experiences, information from Katsucon higher ups, and stories and rumors from the community itself. I should also explain the layout of the hotel, the Gaylord Resort and Convention Center. It's a bit hard to describe, but to put it very simply, imagine the hotel area as just a square, and the convention area and its hallways as a rectangle connected to that square. In the square, besides room and restaurants, are ballrooms for meeting and panel rooms, just like how the convention area would have large meeting and panel rooms. This is something to keep in mind since a majority of what happened was in the hotel area. It was early Friday afternoon. I was in cosplay and leaving my room to meet up with some friends. I was getting off the elevator when I was immediately struck by the fresh smell of popcorn. I was like, whoa, who's making that popcorn? It seemed to be coming from the ballroom area of the hotel. I was thinking about checking it out and seeing if I could grab a little popcorn until my buddy called me wondering where I was at. I decided to check it out later after I met up with my friend. Along the way, I saw signs and posters around that had something to do with Judaism. I don't remember what they said, and some of them couldn't even be read, but they all had BBYO all over them. Something was telling me this wasn't Katsucon related, but I just shrugged it off and went off to meet my friend. A little bit later in the day, maybe around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, I was hanging around in a very scenic area on one of the hotel's main floors, the gazebo floor. Those familiar with Katsucon and even MagFest know what I'm talking about. To those who aren't familiar with it, the gazebo is practically treated as a hallowed ground for con goers, and it's among one of the most popular spots for photo shoots. Katsucon attendees love the gazebo, no questions. This will become an issue later on. So I'm in that area between 2 and 3 when all of a sudden I see a huge parade of teenagers. I think they were all dressed in blue shirts. It looked like their ages ranged between 14 and 17, and there weren't a lot of adults among them. They were all talking excitedly to themselves. I don't think some of them were speaking English either. They were pointing at everything and everyone in costume. And in that moment, I realized there's a Jewish convention here, along with Katsucon. I personally was only mildly surprised, since the Gaylord has a history of booking different conventions together in the past, and this wasn't the first time I attended Katsucon while sharing space with another convention. I was admittedly curious how this would all work out. Now, problems start arising. Keep in mind that my memory is a little shaky, and a lot of what I'm about to say are rumors and stories that were buzzing around. Only a couple incidents were verified. It's Friday night. Rumors are buzzing around the Jewish convention isn't exactly tolerating Katsu. Access to the gazebo space had been limited to Katsucon. Access to certain side stairwells, bathrooms, exits leading to parking lots, and elevators have been limited to Katsucon. Remember how I said to imagine the main hotel area as a square? Now imagine it cut in half crossways. The top half labeled BBYO, and the bottom half Katsucon. Katsu attendees are having issues dealing with the opposing con that's willingly blocking off public areas to them and are getting upset. Myself, I wanted to use one of the side elevators that was on the BBYO side, which was only a few steps away from the Katsu side. Those elevators were far more convenient for me than the main ones, since I didn't have to wait so long for an elevator and my room was closer to get to. Every time I used that elevator at night, I got weird looks from some of the adults that were around the area, as if I wasn't supposed to use that elevator. It's Saturday. Now, I did not see anything, and mostly all of this I heard when I got back home and did some research. The situation between Katsucon and BBYO apparently reached a boiling point. The BBYO side had completely closed off Katsucon use of public areas in their side of the hotel. This I did know about. No side elevators, no side exits, no gazebo. It was bad enough for Katsucon attendees to be denied areas that helped them get to the garage and easier for them to get to their rooms, but use of the gazebo is held in very high esteem in this community. Closing it off really hit hard for the attendees. Rumors by mouth and over social media were flying over how two groups were apparently at war throughout the remainder of the weekend. Some Jewish kids and some adults were yelling insults at cosplayers, some cosplayers were throwing anti-Semitic slurs, some cosplayers reported Jewish kids were intentionally trying to step on or tear parts of their costume. Some Jewish attendees reported Katsucon attendees were throwing pennies at them. There was one unconfirmed incident that a Jewish attendee had maliciously ripped the top off of a cosplayer, revealing her breasts. Apparently, a fight broke out in the convention hall area. Even a well-known cosplayer, Yaya Han, who's a Katsucon regular, was denied a chance to do her private gazebo shoot and raised a huge stink about it. I literally saw a huge group of Jewish adult attendees forming a barrier between their con and Katsucon. I don't think things calmed down entirely until late Saturday night, but at some point, according to rumor, it was thanks to Yaya's tantrum, higher-ups and representatives from both cons, including hotel staff, came to a consensus so that both cons could run somewhat smoothly. Despite areas still roped off to Katsucon attendees, some side exits and elevators on the BBYO side were opened again, as well as the gazebo. I will admit the experience then did put a bit of a damper on my time there. I for one think I should be allowed to use any elevator I wish to use if I'm paying so much money to stay at the hotel, and to purposely block off public areas attendees needed to access, that's insane in my opinion. But what really disappoints me is hearing cosplayers yelling very disgusting anti-Semitic insults at Jewish kids. This is supposed to be a community that's accepting of all people regardless of sex, ethnicity, religion, race, etc. And this kind of behavior is terrible. And it's also disappointing to know that two groups of people who are proud of being who they are had poorly shown that they could occupy the same space for a few days. Despite the negative situations, there were some positive experiences. Some Jewish attendees got a chance to talk with some of the cosplayers and were impressed by their creative outlets. I remember riding an elevator with my friend, a couple of Jewish kids, and a guy in a huge Transformers suit. He was literally as tall as the elevator and nearly took up half of the room inside. It was the best elevator ride of my life. The Jewish kids with us were clearly more than amazed that there was an at least 9-foot tall robot in the elevator. I even heard that Jewish kids bought Katsucon badges in order to attend a Japanese rock concert later that night. These were the kind of positive experiences I love hearing about. After the con was over and I returned home, I checked out the Katsucon forums and Facebook page to see if there was any new information regarding BBYO. No surprise, there was comment after comment of complaints and grievances from Katsucon attendees. Sometime later, an official statement from BBYO was posted, but many attendees weren't satisfied with it and claimed it was a very weak apology. I found a podcast between a Katsucon chair and an attendee which cleared up some of the issues and rumors that were flying around, how BBYO elders did what they did to keep their children safe, and how Katsucon was going to do better to reserve important areas for their con goers in the future. Since then, I haven't had any issues with a totally different convention also taking place. I did enjoy that particular con and still continue to do so, but I wish it could have gone a lot better. My personal opinion, I don't think a religious convention and an anime convention should ever occupy the same space for any length of time again. Hey guys, I'm Tiffany, and my story happened this year at Singapore Toys, Games, and Comic Convention, or simply Singapore Comic-Con. I went with my university's anime club's friends, and one of them was cosplaying as Toka from Tokyo Ghoul, the green jacket version. So we finished our lunch downstairs at the food court and came back to the event area to meet more of our friends. As we're talking, a guy who looks to be in his 40s came up and asked my Toka cosplayer friend if he could take pictures of her. I know some people might be like, creeper alert, but we've known some old dudes who were really well-known photographers in the cosplay community here. Then again, we still watched them from the sidelines. After he took her photos, he asked for her Facebook account. Again, we paid no mind, because that's how the community usually communicates with each other here. Anyway, my friend joined back up with us, and this is where the creepiness started. The guy came up to her again and asked her for her phone number because I might not know which one you are because I added a lot of people on Facebook. It was just such bullcrap. Like, that guy just took her photos. He should be able to recognize her from her Facebook profile picture. He was really persistent about it too, even though my friend already said no. Luckily, there were two guys who were my friend's friends and I. Our other friends were a bit away from us, and we confronted the guy to stop being so pushy about it. He stopped, but my friend was pretty shaken up by it. But that guy didn't stop there. Later that night, we were having dinner, and she said that he kept asking her for a photo shoot through Facebook Messenger. Again, despite her saying no. Nowadays, I heard he does that to a lot of other cosplayers too. The convention was MomoCon 2013. It was the first convention I had ever been to. My older, 17 years old, and younger, 10 years old, sister went with me, as well as the rest of my family. Before I went to the main lobby, I had to make sure I'd gotten my $200 on hand so that I could buy one of the swords I've scouted out in the dealer's room. Since my younger sister had very little experience with bootleg items, I stayed beside her so that she wouldn't make any mistakes on buying anything that she would regret like I did. Instead of taking the elevator, I took the stairs, where I met the man that would eventually cause us a bit of trouble. He was wearing some sort of My Little Pony cosplay, which was obvious since my sister was wearing something similar. I believe it was Rainbow Dash, but I forget the style he wore it in. Anyway, he was very shady to me, and I decided to keep my distance from him and observe his actions discreetly. When I arrived at the dealer's room, I saw my sister looking at some Soul Eater merchandise. Assuming that she was going to buy something without close observation to the plushie, I went over there to see how she was doing. The plushie turned out to be a bootleg, and I took my sister to another booth where it was slightly more expensive, but it was legit. After we left the dealer's room, we went to a My Little Pony panel where I saw the shady man. My sister and I were seated in the middle of the room, and the man was somewhere near the front. I had to use the restroom close by, and I asked my sister if she would be alright by herself for about 3 minutes. She said yes, so I left and headed for the restroom. As I came back into the room, I noticed the man was now a row behind my younger sister. I heard him say, "Do you want to walk around with me? I'll protect you." Also, he said something about having a Rainbow Dash plushie in his room, and my younger sister should go get it with him. He was loud enough that I could hear what he was saying. Obviously, I was ticked. I made the decision to sit down right next to the man, and said, "I'm back," to my sister, trying to act natural. I asked the shady man what his name was. He told me, but I cannot reveal it, so I'm gonna call him Jonathan. Jonathan was noticeably nervous since I was wearing a cosplay from Black Lagoon and had a fake shotgun, which was intimidating to some people, even though I was gentle and 6 feet tall. He must have thought I was my sister's father, because when I talked to him, he had a different tone of voice and talked formally to me. I asked what he was doing over here with my sister. He was surprised to find out that I was her almost 6 foot tall 13-year-old brother. My sister was relieved to see me, and Jonathan saw the look on her face. He now looked even more worried. I whispered in Jonathan's ear and said, "The next time you see my sister, you better believe I'm right behind you." I could have said something harsher, but I wanted to hold back. Immediately, he left the room, and a lot of people were looking at him. I realized I could feel some of the people looking at me and my sister as well, so I continued watching the panel and then sent my younger sister to my older sister so they could get some food. While I was by myself, I overheard a conversation about Jonathan. Turns out the douchebag got what he deserved. He was banned from MomoCon, and he didn't get a refund on his hotel room either. Long story short, Jonathan, you shouldn't mess with underage children. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. I put some annotations to other videos I think you might like, as well as one to my online merch store where you can buy all kinds of convention reviews merch. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you in the next video.